Captain Sarah Winters never imagined her first glimpse of an alien warship would be through Nova Prime's orbital defense grid. The massive vessel emerged from hyperspace like a predator surfacing from dark waters, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in ways that defied human engineering. Behind her, Nova Prime's command center buzzed with controlled panic as colonial defense forces scrambled to respond. Multiple signatures detected. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. 7. No. 12 hegemony warships entering the system. They're not responding to hails. Sarah's jaw tightened. The hegemony had spent decades observing humanity's expansion into space, maintaining a cold diplomatic distance while claiming to respect Earth's sovereignty. Now, watching their warships move into attack formation, she understood why. They'd been studying humanity's weaknesses. "Get me a quantum link to Earth Command," she ordered, "and begin civilian evacuation procedures." A warning klaxon echoed through the station as the first energy signatures of hegemony weapon systems came online. The quantum communicator crackled to life, displaying Admiral Chen's weathered face. Before Sarah could speak, he cut her off. "We're tracking the situation, Captain. The U.S. Black Star is already en route." Sarah's breath caught. Everyone in the fleet had heard rumors about the Black Star, but few believed them. A warship that combined humanity's most advanced technology with combat principles drawn from Earth's ancient military histories. It seemed absurd. "Sir, with all due respect, we need the 7th Fleet, the hegemony force." "Will be dealt with," Chen interrupted. "The Black Star isn't just another warship, Captain. It's humanity's response to finding ourselves in a galaxy that's forgotten the art of war." The first hegemony shots struck Nova Prime's shields, making the command center shudder. Their energy weapons were devastatingly powerful, but they followed predictable firing patterns, exactly as Earth's analysts had predicted. "Time to contact?" Sarah asked, watching the colony's shield strength dropping steadily. "Black Star will arrive in 17 minutes, Rodriguez answered. "Our shields will fail in 15. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. "Then we hold for 18. The next quarter hour was a testament to human determination. As the hegemony ships pressed their attack, Nova Prime's defenders employed every trick and strategy in their arsenal. Defensive satellites programmed with randomized evasion patterns confused enemy targeting systems. Ground-based kinetic launchers fired debris fields that forced the alien ships to adjust their formation. It wasn't enough to win, but it bought precious minutes. When the shields finally collapsed, Sarah braced for the end. Instead, her sensors lit up with a new signature, one that made the hegemony fleet pause. The U.S. Black Star dropped out of hyperspace directly behind the alien formation, but it didn't emerge like other ships. There was no flash of light, no energy surge. It simply appeared, like a shadow taking form among stars. Its hull was a patchwork of materials that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it, and its shape defied conventional space warfare design. "What the hell?" Rodriguez whispered, staring at his readings. "Captain, the Black Star. It's running hot. Really hot. But not from engines or weapons. It's like the whole ship is." "A forge," Sarah finished, understanding dawning as she watched the Black Star begin to move. It didn't bank or turn like other ships. Instead, it flowed through space like liquid metal, its surface temperature rising until it glowed dull red. The hegemony flagship opened fire first, its energy weapons lancing out with enough power to vaporize a conventional warship. The beams struck the Black Star's hull and were absorbed. The alien ship fired again and again. Each shot disappeared into the Black Star's superheated hull, making it glow brighter. Then the Black Star counterattacked. It didn't fire energy weapons or launch missiles. Instead, it released a concentrated burst of thermal energy. All the power it had absorbed from the hegemony's attacks transformed into pure heat. The alien flagship's crystalline hull, designed to reflect energy weapons, couldn't cope with the sudden temperature change. Stress fractures appeared across its surface before it shattered like glass in a forge. "My God," Sarah breathed, watching as the Black Star engaged the remaining hegemony vessels. It moved like a predator now, its hull cooling and heating as it absorbed and released energy in precise bursts. The alien ship's formations, perfected over centuries of space warfare, meant nothing against an enemy that turned their own power against them. "Admiral," Sarah called over the quantum link, "what exactly is the Black Star?" Chen's response carried a note of pride. "Humanity's reminder to the galaxy, Captain. While they were perfecting energy weapons and shield harmonics, we were studying something far older, the principles of thermal dynamics, the arts of metallurgy, the ancient techniques of turning an enemy's strength into a weakness. The Black Star isn't just a warship. It's every forge and furnace humanity has ever built, turned into a weapon." As if to emphasize his words, the Black Star executed a maneuver that would have torn any other ship apart, its hull flowing and reforming like liquid metal as it evaded enemy fire. 2 more hegemony ships fell to its thermal attacks before the others retreated, jumping to hyperspace with their carefully maintained formation in shambles. In the aftermath, as rescue ships began arriving from Earth, Sarah stood at her command center window watching the Black Star patrol Nova Prime's orbit. Its hull had cooled now, dark and unreflective against the stars. Looking at it, she understood what the hegemony had missed in all their years of studying humanity. They had analyzed Earth's technology, measured its military strength, and calculated its strategic resources. But they had forgotten that humanity's greatest weapon was never its tools or technology. It was the ability to take the oldest principles, the basic forces of heat and cold, the fundamental laws of physics, and turn them into something new, something unexpected. The hegemony had brought the most advanced energy weapons in the galaxy to this fight. Humanity had responded by building a fortress out of fire itself. And this, Sarah realized as she watched the Black Star disappear into the darkness of space, was only the beginning. Admiral Chen stood before the holographic display in the Black Star's tactical room, studying the positions of the hegemony fleet. Beside him, Captain Marcus Rivera of the Black Star watched as alien ships moved in their characteristic perfect formations, like pieces on a cosmic chessboard. "They're adapting," Marcus noted, gesturing to the new configurations. "Their ships are maintaining greater distance from each other, minimizing the risk of thermal cascade failures." Chen nodded, his expression thoughtful. "They learn quickly, but they're still thinking in straight lines." He waved his hand, expanding a particular sector of the display. "Look here. They've positioned their support vessels behind their main battle line. Textbook formation warfare. What does that remind you of?" Marcus studied the formation, then smiled as recognition dawned. "The Battle of Cannae. They've created their own killing ground without realizing it." "Precisely." Chen's fingers traced the alien fleet's arrangement. "The hegemony thinks they're fighting a space battle. We're fighting every battle humanity has ever fought." The Black Star's bridge was unlike any other warship in Earth's fleet. Instead of the standard command stations, it featured a circular arrangement of tactical interfaces modeled after ancient war rooms. The ship's AI, nicknamed Sun Tzu, processed combat data through algorithms derived from historical battles spanning human history. "Sun Tzu," Chen called out, "tactical analysis based on historical pattern recognition." The AI's voice filled the room, calm and measured. "Hegemony fleet formation shows 89% correlation with classical phalanx deployments. Vulnerable to envelopment tactics. Recommend adaptation of Hannibal's double envelopment strategy, modified for 3-dimensional space warfare." Marcus studied the proposed battle plan as it appeared in the holographic display. "They'll expect us to hit their center directly, trying to absorb and redirect their energy weapons again. Then let's not disappoint them," Chen replied with a slight smile. "Signal the Thermopylae and the Marathon. It's time to show the hegemony why humanity never stopped studying ancient warfare." The next few hours were a symphony of coordination as Chen's battle plan took shape. The Black Star, now joined by two other experimental vessels incorporating similar thermal technology, moved into position. The Hegemony fleet, detecting their approach, adjusted their formation exactly as predicted. Enemy fleet advancing, Sun Tzu reported. Energy signatures indicate weapons charging. They have modified their weapon frequencies, attempting to overwhelm our thermal absorption capabilities. Let them try, Marcus ordered. Begin executing Cannae protocol. The Black Star charged straight at the Hegemony Center, its hull already beginning to glow as it prepared to absorb the coming assault. The alien ships, their crystalline hulls gleaming, opened fire with their modified weapons. Energy beams struck the Black Star from multiple angles, their intensity increased beyond previous encounters. But this time, something was different. Instead of simply absorbing the energy, the Black Star's hull began to ripple and flow, forming complex patterns that redirected some of the energy rather than absorbing it all. Hull temperature approaching critical, Sun Tzu warned. Thermal redistribution patterns holding at 87% efficiency. Maintain course, Marcus commanded. Wait for it. The Hegemony fleet pressed their advantage, their formation curving inward like the horns of a bull, trying to surround the Black Star. They were so focused on the apparent success of their new weapons that they failed to notice the Thermopylae and Marathon moving into position above and below their formation. Now, Chen ordered quietly. The Black Star suddenly reversed thrust, its liquid metal hull flowing backward even as it continued to absorb enemy fire. At the same moment, the Thermopylae and Marathon attacked from above and below, using their own thermal capabilities in a way the Hegemony hadn't seen before. Instead of absorbing and redirecting energy, they created focused heat zones in space itself, turning vast areas into thermal barriers that forced the alien ships to cluster closer together. They're in the killing zone, Marcus announced. All ships, execute Phase 2. The true genius of Chen's plan became apparent as the three human ships unleashed their accumulated thermal energy in a precisely coordinated pattern. The Black Star's attack drove the Hegemony forces back while the Thermopylae and Marathon's thermal barriers prevented them from breaking formation. Caught in their own rigid tactical doctrine, the alien fleet found itself trapped in a three-dimensional version of one of history's most famous battles. Multiple enemy ships experiencing critical hull stress, Sun Tzu reported. Their formation is breaking down. The Hegemony commanders tried to adapt, but their ship's crystalline construction, optimized for energy deflection, proved catastrophically vulnerable to the coordinated thermal assault. One by one, their vessels began to fail, their beautiful hulls cracking and shattering in the extreme temperature gradients. Enemy fleet in full retreat, Sun Tzu announced as the remaining Hegemony ships flowed into hyperspace. Tactical analysis confirms 60% enemy casualties. No losses on our side. Chen watched the battlefield clearing on the holographic display, scattered debris from the Hegemony ships glinting like broken glass in starlight. Send a message to Earth Command, he ordered. The Art of War protocol is confirmed effective. Begin implementing the modifications on all new ship construction. Marcus studied the tactical replay, watching how the three human ships had worked in concert. They'll adapt again, he noted. Next time they'll be ready for these tactics. Of course they will, Chen agreed. But that's what they don't understand about humanity. We don't just learn from victory. We learn from every battle ever fought, won or lost. While they're adapting to this strategy, we're already studying the next lesson from history. He gestured to the holographic display, where Sun Tzu was already analyzing the battle data and comparing it to historical conflicts. The Hegemony thinks war is about superior technology and perfect formations. We know it's about understanding the fundamental principles that haven't changed since humans first picked up stones as weapons. And what principle did we demonstrate today? Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. Chen smiled, quoting from memory. Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Today, we didn't just defeat their ships, We defeated their assumptions about how war should be fought." As if to emphasize his point, the Black Star's hull continued to shift and flow, the liquid metal surface adapting and changing like the art of war itself. The hegemony had brought their perfect formations and advanced energy weapons to the battle. Humanity had responded by reaching back through thousands of years of military history and bringing those ancient lessons into the space age. The next battle would be different, but that was exactly what humanity was counting on. In a galaxy where warfare had become standardized and predictable, humanity's greatest weapon was its ability to be anything but standard. The Hegemony High Command's war room was in chaos. Supreme Commander Vex Thor, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the red warning lights, watched as tactical displays showed yet another fleet engagement ending in disaster. The humans weren't just winning battles anymore, they were rewriting the rules of space warfare. "Impossible," General Zyril hissed, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "They're using civilian mining vessels as combat units now." Mining vessels. The display showed the aftermath of the latest battle. A converted human mining fleet had scattered a hegemony patrol group using modified excavation beams to create gravitational distortions. The patrol's energy weapons, calibrated to fight warships, had proven useless against vessels that wielded gravity itself as a weapon. "Not impossible," Vex Thor corrected, his compound eyes studying the battle data. "Innovative. We assumed their reliance on human crews and retrofitted civilian ships was a weakness. Instead, they've turned it into an advantage." In another sector of space, aboard the Earth Defense Force command carrier Normandy, Admiral Chen watched similar tactical feeds with satisfaction. The Black Star's success had sparked a revolution in human space warfare doctrine. Every captain in the fleet was now encouraged to adapt and improvise, drawing inspiration from Earth's vast military history. Status report from the Thermopylae battle group. His tactical officer announced, "Operation Guerrilla Nebula is proceeding as planned. The hegemony supply lines are in disarray." Chen nodded, studying the strategic display. Dozens of small human task forces were harassing hegemony supply routes, using converted civilian ships alongside military vessels. Mining lasers had become gravity weapons. Cargo haulers now deployed clouds of sensor-jamming materials. Even passenger liners had been transformed into electronic warfare platforms, their entertainment systems repurposed for cyber attacks. "They still don't understand," Chen mused. "They think technology wins wars. We know it's the people using it that matter." The Black Star itself was currently leading a task force deep in hegemony space, but its influence was felt everywhere in the human fleet. Ships were being modified with thermal absorption technology, crews were studying historical battle tactics, and AI systems were being programmed with military histories from Sun Tzu to Clausewitz. "New contact," the sensor officer called out. "Major hegemony fleet formation detected on an intercept course. At least 30 capital ships." Chen studied the approaching enemy fleet. Their formation was different this time. Looser, more flexible, with overlapping fields of fire. They were learning, adapting to human tactics, but they were still thinking like the hegemony. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Execute Operation Swarm." Across the sector, human vessels of all types began moving into seemingly random patterns. Converted mining ships created gravitational eddies that civilian freighters used to alter their trajectories in ways hegemony targeting systems couldn't predict. Passenger liners broadcast conflicting sensor data, while cargo haulers released clouds of specialized debris. The hegemony fleet's perfect formation began to degrade as they tried to track hundreds of potential threats moving in chaotic patterns. Their energy weapons fired at sensor ghosts, while actual threats slipped through their defensive screen. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "the Black Star Task Force is reporting success in their mission. They've transmitted the codes." Chen allowed himself a small smile. While the hegemony was distracted by the apparent chaos of the human fleet's movements, the Black Star had struck at a critical communication hub. The supposedly random patterns of the human ships had been carefully choreographed to draw attention away from the real operation. "Begin Phase 2, he ordered. Suddenly, the scattered human ships snapped into new formations, patterns that would have seemed suicidal by conventional military doctrine. Mining vessels created gravitational corridors that cargo ships used to accelerate to impossible speeds. Passenger liners coordinated their electronic warfare systems to create gaps in hegemony sensor coverage. The hegemony fleet, caught between maintaining their traditional formation and responding to the unconventional threats, began to break apart. Their attempts to adapt to human tactics had left them in a worst-of-both-worlds scenario, unable to leverage their traditional strengths but not flexible enough to truly fight like humans. "Enemy fleet is withdrawing," the tactical officer announced, confirming multiple ships lost to gravitational shear and thermal stress. "No casualties on our side." Chen watched as the hegemony ships retreated, their once perfect formation now in shambles. "Send word to all fleet commanders," he ordered. "Operation Broken Mirror is now in effect. It's time to show the hegemony what happens when every ship in the human fleet becomes a black star in its own way." The tactical display updated, showing human forces across multiple sectors beginning similar operations. The hegemony had built its military might on standardization and technological superiority. Humanity had responded by turning every ship into a unique threat, every crew into innovative tacticians, and every battle into a lesson in adaptability. "They thought we were primitive because we still needed human crews," Chen said to his bridge staff. "They didn't realize that humans are the most sophisticated weapons ever created. We don't just adapt, we transform everything we touch into something new." As if to emphasize his point, the tactical display showed more human fleets moving into position, each one using different combinations of modified civilian and military technology. The hegemony's standardized response protocols were becoming less effective by the day as they faced an enemy that refused to fight according to any predictable pattern. The age of formation warfare was over. The era of human innovation had begun. The U.S. Black Star hung motionless in the void, its adaptive hull absorbing light until it was nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Captain Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge, watching as final preparations were made for humanity's most ambitious operation yet. "All task forces report ready," Lieutenant Sarah Chen, Admiral Chen's daughter, and the ship's tactical officer, announced. "Operation Trojan Horse is go." Marcus nodded, studying the holographic display showing their target, the hegemony's primary shipyard complex at Axis Prime. The massive installation was protected by overlapping defense grids, automated weapon platforms, and the largest concentration of hegemony warships in the sector. "Begin transmission," he ordered. Across the fleet, converted passenger liners began broadcasting their carefully crafted distress signals. To hegemony sensors, they appeared to be civilian refugee ships, their engines damaged and life support failing. The perfect bait. "Hegemony response fleet detected," Sarah reported. "They're moving to intercept the refugee ships." Just as predicted, they still can't resist showing off their superiority by rescuing helpless humans. The hegemony had made a show of accepting human refugees throughout the war, presenting themselves as benevolent saviors while gathering intelligence. Now that same arrogance would be their undoing. "All ships, execute Phase 1, Marcus commanded. The refugee ships suddenly split apart, their outer hulls falling away to reveal heavily modified warships underneath. But these weren't conventional vessels, they were carriers, each one launching swarms of what appeared to be escape pods. Inside the Axis Prime Defense Command, alarms blared as the pods were detected. "Analysis confirms human life signs," a hegemony controller reported. "They appear to be desperate refugees launching from failing ships." The hegemony commander, following standard protocol, ordered the defense grid to allow the pods through while concentrating fire on the revealed warships. It was exactly what humanity had counted on. The pods weren't carrying refugees. Each one contained a squad of Space Force commandos, equipped with powered armor based on the Black Star's thermal technology. As the pods breached Axis Prime's outer defenses, they burst open, releasing hundreds of armored warriors directly onto the station's hull. Phase 1 complete, Sarah announced. Commando teams are deploying, beginning Phase 2. The revealed warships engaged the Hegemony response fleet, but instead of fighting directly, they began creating a complex pattern of gravitational distortions. Modified mining beams carved paths through space itself, turning the battlefield into a maze that fragmented the Hegemony's carefully coordinated defense. Meanwhile, the commandos were cutting their way into Axis Prime. Their armor, incorporating the same thermal absorption technology as the Black Star, made them nearly immune to the station's automated defenses. Energy weapons designed to vaporize incoming missiles simply fed power to the commando suits. "Sir," Sarah called out, detecting major power fluctuations in the station's defense grid. "Commando teams have reached their primary objectives." Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. "Signal the Black Star fleet. Begin Phase 3. Suddenly, space itself seemed to ripple as dozens of ships appeared around Axis Prime. Led by the Black Star, the strike fleet had been there all along, their thermal absorption technology and gravitational distortion fields rendering them completely invisible to Hegemony sensors. "All ships, weapons free," Marcus ordered. "Show them what we've learned." The battle that followed would be studied in war colleges for centuries. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship using modified civilian and military technology in ways the Hegemony had never imagined possible. Mining beams created gravitational lenses that focused the Black Star's thermal attacks. Converted passenger liners used their powerful communication arrays to hack and override Hegemony targeting systems. Inside Axis Prime, the commando teams were implementing centuries of human tactical knowledge. They moved like ancient guerrilla fighters through the station's corridors, using their thermal armor to appear and disappear at will. When Hegemony security forces tried to coordinate a response, they found their communication systems compromised by electronic warfare suites built from modified entertainment systems. Multiple secondary explosions detected throughout the station, Sarah reported. Commando teams report successful placement of gravity bombs. Station structural integrity is failing. The gravity bombs were another human innovation, devices that created localized gravitational distortions based on principles the Hegemony had dismissed as theoretical. As they detonated across Axis Prime, the massive station began to tear itself apart from the inside. "Hegemony reinforcements detected," Sarah announced. 3 fleet groups approaching from multiple vectors. Marcus studied the tactical display, watching as the enemy ships rushed to save their critical shipyard. "They're still thinking conventionally," he noted. "Signal all ships to begin Operation Odysseus." The human fleet's formation dissolved into apparent chaos, ships moving in patterns that defied traditional space combat doctrine. But there was a method to the madness. Each seemingly random movement was precisely calculated to create a complex web of gravitational distortions, thermal barriers, and sensor ghosts. The Hegemony reinforcements found themselves fighting shadows while real threats slipped through their defenses. Human ships appeared and disappeared, their thermal absorption technology making them seem to phase in and out of reality. Modified civilian vessels turned their utility systems into weapons in ways that made traditional combat training worse than useless. "Axis Prime's main reactor is going critical," Sarah reported. "Commando teams are beginning extraction." The station's destruction was spectacular. As its reactor collapsed, the gravity bombs created a cascade of spatial distortions that literally folded sections of the massive structure in on themselves. The Hegemony's greatest shipyard, capable of producing their most advanced vessels, imploded into a singularity of its own making. "All commando teams recovered," Sarah announced. "Enemy fleet is in disarray. Operation Trojan Horse is a complete success." Marcus watched as the human fleet regrouped, their innovative tactics having turned one of the most heavily defended installations in Hegemony space into a cloud of debris. "Send word to Admiral Chen," he ordered. "The path to their core worlds is open." The hegemony had built their military might on technological superiority and rigid doctrine. Humanity had responded by turning everything they knew about warfare upside down. Now, as the Black Star led its fleet toward the heart of enemy territory, the true lesson was clear. In a galaxy of standardized warfare, humanity's greatest weapon was its endless capacity for innovation. The counterstrike had begun, and with it, the final phase of a war that would rewrite the rules of combat for centuries to come. The crystalline spires of the hegemony capital world, Tenfar, glittered in the light of its three suns. In the planet's orbital defense command, Supreme Commander Vexthor received the latest battle reports with growing dread. The humans weren't just winning anymore. They were revolutionizing warfare itself. "The Axis Prime shipyards are gone," General Ziril reported, his exoskeleton dulled with stress. "3 more systems have fallen in the past week. They're ships. They're evolving faster than we can adapt." Vexthor studied the tactical displays showing human fleet movements across hegemony space. Each battle brought new surprises, new combinations of technology and tactics that defied conventional military doctrine. The humans had turned their greatest perceived weaknesses, their reliance on crews, their retrofitted civilian ships, their primitive understanding of physics, into unprecedented advantages. In the void above Tenfar, reality itself seemed to bend as the USS Black Star and its fleet emerged from their gravitational cloak. Admiral Chen stood on the Black Star's bridge, watching as his forces moved into position for the final battle of the war. "All task forces report ready," Captain Rivera announced. "The hegemony home fleet is mobilizing." Chen nodded, studying the enemy formations. The hegemony ships were arranging themselves in a new pattern, one that showed they had finally begun to grasp the true nature of human warfare. But it was too late. "Begin Operation Phoenix," Chen ordered. The battle that followed would redefine the nature of space warfare. The human fleet split into countless smaller groups, each one employing different combinations of modified technology. Converted mining ships created gravitational corridors that passenger liners, now armed with experimental weapons, used to achieve impossible maneuvers. Cargo haulers released clouds of smart materials that reformed into temporary battle platforms. The hegemony fleet's response was more flexible than ever before, but they were trying to adapt to yesterday's tactics. Humanity had already moved on to the next innovation. "Enemy flagship detected," Sarah Chen reported from her tactical station. "They're attempting to coordinate a counterattack using our own gravitational manipulation techniques." Admiral Chen allowed himself a small smile. "They're learning, but they're learning the wrong lesson. Signal all ships to begin Phase 2. The human fleet's seemingly chaotic movements suddenly revealed their true purpose. Each ship's position had been precisely calculated to create a massive interlocking network of gravitational distortions. The hegemony fleet found itself caught in a web of spatial anomalies that turned their own advanced technology against them. Aboard the hegemony flagship, Vexthor watched in horror as his fleet's formations broke apart. "Impossible," he whispered. "They're using our understanding of physics itself as a weapon against us." The Black Star led the final assault, its adaptive hull flowing like liquid metal as it absorbed and redirected enemy fire. But the ship was more than just a technological marvel. It was a symbol of humanity's approach to warfare. Each hit it took made it stronger. Each attack it absorbed taught it something new. "Multiple enemy ships experiencing critical failures," Sarah reported. "Their advanced power systems are overloading due to the gravitational stress." The hegemony fleet's greatest strength, their sophisticated technology, had become their greatest vulnerability. The human fleet's combination of modified civilian systems and innovative military hardware was overwhelming their defenses with sheer unpredictability. "Signal detected from the enemy flagship," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced. "They're requesting communication." Chen nodded. "Put them through." Supreme Commander Vexthor's image appeared on the main screen, his crystalline form showing signs of stress fractures. Admiral Chen, he said, his translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in his voice. I begin to understand now. What do you understand, Commander? Chen asked quietly. Why you never abandoned your primitive technologies. Why you insisted on human crews and mechanical backups. Why you studied ancient warfare. Vex Thor's compound eyes reflected the chaos of the battle around them. We thought we were perfecting warfare. You knew it could never be perfected. Chen's expression remained neutral, but his voice carried centuries of human military wisdom. War isn't about perfection, Commander. It's about adaptation. Every technology can be countered. Every tactic can be predicted. Every perfect system has a flaw. But the ability to change, to combine old ideas with new ones, to turn weakness into strength, that can never be defeated. The hegemony's surrender was transmitted across all frequencies. As the human fleet secured orbit around Tenthar, Chen walked through the Black Star's corridors, touching the warm, living metal of its hull. The ship had changed since its first battle, evolved through countless engagements. Like humanity itself, it had grown stronger by embracing change rather than seeking perfection. In the aftermath, as peace negotiations began, the hegemony's military architects studied the remains of human vessels with a mixture of confusion and awe. They found mining lasers modified into gravity weapons, entertainment systems repurposed for electronic warfare, and countless other innovations that defied their understanding of military technology. But what truly confused them was discovering that many of these innovations had been inspired by ancient human warfare. They found references to battles fought with wooden ships, strategies developed for horse-mounted warriors, and tactics created before humanity had even mastered flight. I still don't understand, Vex Thor admitted during the formal surrender ceremony. How did you defeat our superior technology with such primitive concepts? Admiral Chen's response would be recorded in both human and hegemony history books. Because true innovation isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about understanding that every tool, every concept, every lesson from history has value if you're willing to see it in a new light. You sought to perfect warfare. We sought to perfect our ability to adapt. The U.S. Black Star remained in orbit around Xenthar as the peace treaty was signed, its adaptive hull reflecting the light of 3 suns. It was no longer just a warship. It was a testament to humanity's greatest strength, the ability to learn from the past, adapt to the present, and constantly innovate for the future. The war was over, but its lessons would reshape galactic civilization. The hegemony had brought technological superiority and perfect formations to the battlefield. Humanity had responded by turning the fundamental forces of the universe into weapons, ancient military wisdom into revolutionary strategies, and their own perceived weaknesses into unprecedented strengths. In the end, victory hadn't come through superior technology or perfect tactics. It had come through innovation, humanity's endless capacity to adapt, to question, to combine the old with the new in ways that no one else had imagined possible. And somewhere in the vast archives of human military history, Sun Tzu's ancient wisdom found new meaning in the space age. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. The hegemony's resistance hadn't been broken by superior weapons, but by humanity's ability to make everything they touched into something new and unexpected. The age of standardized warfare was over. The era of endless innovation had begun.